And even if that hadn't been so, she was too mean to dress well. She kept everything she earned. No one knew what for. She didn't need money in the job. She made use of lies and tricks instead. She set an example that Peppy couldn't and wouldn't follow. So it was right for her, Peppy, to prettify herself so that she could make her mark at the very outset. If only she had more funds to do it with, she'd have defeated Frida in spite of all her slyness and all Kay's folly. And it began so well. She had found out the few skills you had to master and the things you had to know in advance. As soon as she began work in the bar, she was quite at home there. No one missed Frida. It was only on the second day that some of the guests asked what had become of her. There were no mistakes. The landlord was satisfied. He had been so anxious on the first day that he was in and out of the bar all the time. Later he came only now and then, and in the end, since the takings were right, in fact, the bar was taking on average a little more money than in Frida's time, he left everything to Peppy. She introduced innovations. Frida had supervised everyone strictly, not out of industry but out of avarice, out of her desire to dominate and her fear of letting someone else have any of her rights. She supervised even the servants, or at least in part, especially when someone was watching. Peppy, on the other hand, left that work entirely to the cellar lads, who were much better suited to it. That meant she had more time for the gentlemen's rooms. The guests were served quickly, and she could exchange a few words with someone, not like Frida, who apparently kept herself entirely for clam and considered every word or approach from someone else as an insult to him. That was clever too, to be sure. For if she ever did let someone approach her, it was an unheard of favor. But Peppy hated such tricks, and you can't use them to start with in a job either. Peppy was friendly to everyone, and everyone was friendly to her in return. They were all obviously glad of the change. When those tired, overworked gentlemen can finally sit over their beer for a while, you can positively transform them with a word, a glance, a shrug of your shoulders. Everyone liked to run his hands through Peppy's curls. She probably had to tidy her hair 10 times a day. No one could resist the allure of those curls and the bows in her hair. Not even Kay, who usually noticed nothing much. So those exciting, hard-working, but successful days flew by. If only they hadn't flown so fast. If only there had been more of them left. 4 days are not enough when you're working yourself to the bone. Perhaps the 5th day would have done the trick, but 4 days were too few. Peppy had indeed won friends and patrons in those 4 days, if she could trust the glances of all eyes she had been positively swimming in a sea of goodwill as she walked around with the beer tankards. A clerk called Bratmeyer is crazy about her, she says. He gave her this chain and locket with his picture in, which was certainly very bold of him. This, that, and the other had happened, but it was still only 4 days. In 4 days, if Peppy had put her mind to it, Frida could have been almost, if not entirely, forgotten. And she would have been forgotten too, perhaps even earlier, if she hadn't made sure to keep people talking about her by creating such a scandal. It had made her interesting to them again. They wanted to see her merely out of curiosity. What had become dreadfully dreary had fresh interest because of Kay, to whom they were otherwise entirely indifferent. They wouldn't have lost interest in Peppy because of that, not while she was standing here physically present to them. But the gentlemen are mostly elderly and set in their ways. It takes them some time to get used to a new barmaid, however much the change is for the better. But it will take a few days. Even if it's against the gentleman's real will, it's going to take a few days. Perhaps only 5, but 4 are not enough. Peppy still seemed like the temporary barmaid in spite of everything. And then there was perhaps the greatest of misfortunes. In those 4 days, Clam, although he had been in the village for the first 2 of them, had not come down to the guest room next door. If he had come, that would have been a crucial test for Peppy, and a test she didn't fear at all. Indeed, she was looking forward to it. She would not, to be sure, it is better not to put such things into words. She would not have become Clam's lover, and would never have told lies, elevating herself to such a position, but she would at least have been able to put the beer glass on the table just as nicely as Frida. She would have said a nice good day without any of Frida's pushy manner, and she would have taken her leave prettily too. And if Clam was looking for anything at all in a girl's eyes, well, he'd have found it in Peppy's to his full satisfaction. But why didn't he come? Was it pure chance? Peppy had thought so at the time. She was expecting him at any moment during those first 2 days. She waited for him to appear at night too. Now Clam will arrive, she kept on thinking, pacing up and down for no other reason other than the agitation of waiting and the wish to be the first to see him come in. This constant disappointment tired her out, and perhaps for that reason, she didn't achieve as much as she could have done When she had a little time, she stole out into the corridor that the staff was strictly forbidden to enter, huddled in a niche there, and waited. If only Clam would come now, she thought. If only I could take that gentleman out of his room myself and carry him down to the guest room in my arms. I wouldn't collapse under the burden, however great it was. But he didn't come. It's so quiet in those corridors upstairs, Peppy said. You can't imagine how quiet if you haven't been there. It's so quiet that you can't stand it for long. The silence drives you away. But again and again, driven away 10 times, Peppy climbed up there again 10 times. There was no point in it. If Clam wanted to come down, he would come. And if he didn't want to come down, Peppy wouldn't lure him out, even if she was half choked in the niche by the palpitations of her heart. There was no point in it. But if he didn't come, there was no point in almost anything. And he didn't come. Today, Peppy knows why Clam didn't come. Frida would have been much amused if she had seen Peppy in the niche up in that corridor, both hands to her heart. Clam didn't come down because Frida wouldn't let him.